currently here, and yes, we might still trade higher to reach this area. However, for it to be able to reach the zone, which is a supply zone, a support and resistance, and also the upper brown trend line acting as a non-horizontal resistance, holding this long-term bearish trend. So for us to be able to reach this high, we need to see a break above this resistance now, because as you see from this one, we are currently on the resistance for support 2, resistance 1, and this would be our resistance 2, right? But I forgot to add it. That's it. For us to be able to reach this high, we need to see a break above the 39.50, because as you see, it's actually a very strong supply resistance that has been respected all over again. And we also have this supply zone because we had an aggressive movement there from it, and price already filled it. So we should see a reaction here, and we had it. So now this supply has been filled. Let's see if the bulls would be strong enough to trade higher from here and break above this area. In this case, we'll be expecting further bullish movement. And yes, we can trade higher and break above it because we are now bullish from a short-term perspective, especially after breaking above this high. So this movement reminds me of this movement. We had the break, a retest, and a big impulse movement. We are currently had the break, a retest, and we are currently in this impulse movement higher. And for example, this might be just like this consolidation, this correction, or just like this one. So yes, we are technically bullish now. So for example, if you delete everything and like you just like follow market structure, we've broke above this high. Now we are expecting a bullish movement till the previous major high, which you can see right here. But let me add my drawings again so you can clearly see what I'm looking for. If you zoom into H4 time frame, we know that we are bullish. We broke above this high from daily. We are inside this channel, and we are currently retesting the low band, which is also this previous high broken upward from daily time frame. So we are currently in a correction. For the bulls to remain in control, we need to see a rejection from this trend line, breaking above the zone, reject the trend line here, retest it, and then voila, we are retesting this zone, which we saw from daily time frame. Okay, so long story short, we need to see this break. Okay, we need to see a rejection from here. Meanwhile, we are in a correction, and it's confirmed that we are in a correction. Why? Because we broke below the previous low. Just like here, correction started, impulse started. Broke below the previous low, correction started, impulse started. Broke below the previous low, correction started. So officially, we are currently in a correction. It might last for a couple of candles, just like here, or it might last for a couple of swings before the next bullish movement starts, just like this one. So here we go. First impulse. Let's see if we'll get this now and the reversal, or we'll get this one, correction impulse, before we trade higher. So this idea would be still in place unless, of course, we break below this zone, right? In this case, this whole bullish trend would no longer be valid. We would be breaking the trend line, breaking this orange zone, previous low, previous high, broken downward. In this case, we'll be expecting a movement like this. But as long as we are above this previous high, which we saw from daily time frame, as long as we are above it, in this case, for example, like this, we are fine. We can still retest it, yes, before we trade higher. And yes, like for now, for FOMC, I'm speculating this movement like this, and then before we trade higher. Okay, that's basically it. Can't really add much on lower time frames except that the correction just started and we are currently in this leg. Okay, that's it. Next, for DXY, we are bullish, and if you remember last week we had this zone, right? And we mentioned that if we break it upward, we'll be expecting a bullish movement. The bulls will be kicking in to reject this support zone, which we also drew last week, right? Which is lining up with this previous high and previous low and so on. And we know that we are trading inside this channel like this. We're expecting a rejection from here, or if you dive lower, rejection from down there. We had the rejection now, and we are retesting what? This previous low. So the exact same opposite scenario. On US 500, we broke below above this, and now retesting it on the XY, we broke below this, and we are currently retesting it. And yes, we can still dive a little bit higher before we trade lower, just like US 500, we can still dive a little bit lower before we trade higher. Okay, the exact same logic or the exact opposite logic. Okay, but like mainly we are keeping an eye on the XY, and it's approaching a strong previous low supply zone, which is still fresh. Okay, so this is a supply that price is trying to fill now. So we might have this movement or even a little bit like inside the zone before we trade lower. And this is also a resistance zone. From daily time frame, you can see it even better. We are bearish impulse correction, impulse. We are currently in this correction, so we might expect some strength for the XY first before the bears kick in again and push it till down here, which is also a massive support zone, which will drag price up. And here it will be the decision making from a long-term perspective. Either we have this and then we trade higher by breaking above this flag, impulse correction, and then break, or it might be a signal, a signal of a long-term bearish reversal. In this case, if we trade lower and break it down, in this case, we'll be expecting this movement, because we are currently on weekly time frame around a very important area, and we have been bullish for a long period of time and blah blah blah. Like we already know that we have been bullish, so it wouldn't be that easy for the bears to take over from a long-term perspective, right? For them to take over from a long-term perspective, we need to see a break below this low right here, which we also saw from daily time frame. And in fact, it would be this exact one. Okay, so let's keep it this way and let me make it appear on weekly time frame. Now you can see it very clearly. So to finally say that, yeah, the bull run is starting in crypto, right? And finally the stock market is like seeing some relief, because like no matter which stock you check, Meta, you can see Meta is melting, right? So this is weekly chart. This is monthly chart. You can see everything is melting badly. Okay, so like no matter which chart you check, if you check Amazon, here we go. Okay, so everything's going down. This is weekly time frame. Okay, so we wanted the XY to trade lower for everything else to be able to trade higher. Okay, so let me go back to the XY. Great. Okay, so this movement wasn't good at all for the entire market, and it's time, right? If you zoom out a little bit, you can see that we've got this massive channel, and we are currently around the upper bound of it exactly, and you can see like this channel like all over the place. For example, if you go to USD.D, right? So you can see the yen has been melting also badly, right? So the USD strength, like per yen, is going like up crazy, which means that the yen is getting weaker and weaker. And here we go. That's the exact same channel. We are around an overbought zone all over the place. If you zoom out, you are also around this high, and so on. Let's get back to our the XY chart. Okay, so let's make it appear only on monthly, because I don't want to see it on lower time frames. Fantastic. Save it, zoom in. Okay, we're currently here, but for the bears to take over, you need to see this break right here. Can't really say much. I already covered it all from daily. What I'm expecting now, due to FOMC and the Fed like raising the interest rate, of course, like we'll see strength for the XY first. And then I'm speculating a rejection from this area, starting from the zone till around this area here. That's a massive resistance that I doubt that we will have this break above it now. Okay, so at least we'll see some reaction here, which would be good. But first, we might see some pain before we start going higher. Anyway, if you zoom into lower time frame, you can see that this one is broken. As mentioned last week, we traded higher. For now, if you apply the same logic, that's it. That's our last previous low. Okay. And you can also draw this trend line or this trend line and blah blah blah, but let's keep it simple. We have this last major low, and in fact this is the last main one, but let's update it for now, because we might have this movement and then break it down. Or if you trade it a little bit higher, then we'll be expecting this movement, for example, and then a break below it for the bears to take over. In this case, yes, I'll be able to draw this trend line, make an offset for it, and this would be it. Okay, let me check the chat real quick before we continue. Okay. I have a comment from YouTube forwarded here. El Fabiani, right? I hope you're doing good, mate. I'm happy to see you here. Okay, Bram, hope you're doing good. I just saw that you joined, and I've already said hi to everyone else. So let's get into crypto finally, right? So USDT dominance. And like the zone I drew last week, so for the bulls to take over, to see a break above it, we didn't happen. We broke above this minor one here, but not above this one. Anyway, let's start from higher time frames first. If you go to daily time frame, as I mentioned previously last week, that the bears took over, but don't get too excited because we are still around the support zone, and this support has been respected multiple again times. Okay, so we might reject it like for a couple of candles before breaking it down like this. Okay, for example, just like this one, we rejected it, we broke it upward, we rejected it, we broke it upward, right? So we are waiting for some sort of rejection like this before we break it downward. Of course, unless and so on, we break above this last major high now, which is from H4. If you break it upward, it wouldn't be good. Like for the crypto market, we'll be expecting the price to be still stuck just like this, right? Just like this. If you break above this one, we'll be expecting a movement upwards. But for now, we might trade a little bit higher before we trade lower again and so on. Anyway, from H4 time frame, that's our last high. Now we are inside a correction movement like this. We have been bearish, right? Which is obviously bullish for Bitcoin and the whole crypto market. We have been bearish now, and these are just small correction movements, right? Then the bears take over again and then push price lower. If you apply the same logic here, in fact, we can also draw what? Well, so can also draw this channel, okay? So for the bears to take over from a short-term perspective or like to remain in control, we need to see a break below this channel and then below what? This zone here from a longer-term perspective. In this case, we'll be expecting a bearish movement till this one, which would be very good for the crypto market. But we need to see a break below this one first. Okay, meanwhile, we are slightly bullish. We can trade higher and higher like this before breaking down and trading lower. Okay, so sorry. Or if we go like up. Okay, let me take a sip. Cheers. Okay, if you go up and break above this high, then the bulls will take over. Let's get into Bitcoin. So on weekly time frame, we have finally some movements. Like look at how much I'm zooming in for me to see the candles, right? So you can, for example, you can see these ones if I'm zoomed out, but these ones I can't really see them. I have to zoom in, right? Which is the reason why we have low volatility around this area. Okay, but we finally saw some movements here by this candle breaking above the range, but it's just nothing. It's just like a movement upward like this, right? So if you check the previous price action here, that's it, a correction, an impulse, a correction, and an impulse, and we are currently in this correction. Okay, to have a shift in momentum here inside the zone, we need to see a break above this high and then a break above this high. Okay, from daily time frame, okay, enough, we can zoom out now. From daily time frame, we are stuck inside this range, which we saw from weekly, lower band, midway, and upper bound. Let me adjust this one. Here we go. Okay, that's the high that we broke, which I already shared from weekly, and we are currently retesting this one. We might dive a little bit lower like this before we trade higher, but the good thing is that after a couple of weeks below the 20K, we are finally above the 20K again, right? But we would like to see an impulse movement upward. It would be what? The last high, impulse movement breaking above it, a correction now, and then we want this next impulse to push higher to fill this supply zone. It's still fresh. We had an aggressive movement down from here, so we might trade higher to fill it. which would be around 22K500. Okay, so that's the view from H4. We broke above this in this zone. Let me read this one now. It's already like old. Let's read this one as well. We already know that the bulls took over short, medium term. Okay, voila. Now we've got a cleaner one. Let's remove this one. You know what? Let's delete it. Okay, that's how you keep it clean. Delete these arrows as well. Let's keep it like fancy, right? We are currently testing. That's our last major low right here. So I don't want a break below the 20K. Okay, if we break it downward, we would be breaking below this one. This entire movement would be a fake out, and the bears would drag Bitcoin back inside the range. So range, fake out, back inside the range, and range. Okay, but we can still trade a little bit lower, go lower, make a wick, right, and then like break upward and trade higher. Okay, so like I'm personally speculating this. Okay, this movement, because I got my alert here. I'm speculating this, and then a movement upward, speculating also this, and then a movement downward without breaking above this, without breaking below this. Okay, we don't want a break here, we don't want a break here, and we don't want what? A break here. Okay, so I'm speculating this and then a reversal, and vice versa for the XY, this and then a reversal. Okay. Okay. From H1, we are currently trading inside this channel. That's it. Okay, so I can't really say much. It's very clean. From M30, you can even see multiple touches. Bitcoin is respecting this channel well. So for the bulls to take over, we need to see what? My alert is here. Very straightforward, a break above this. Okay. Meanwhile, we can trade lower to what? To fill or to test the lower bound, which would be what? Retesting also these previous lows, retesting also the 20K, fill some orders right here, okay, before we finally trade higher and then trade like this. Unless we break it downward and we close an H4 candle below it. Okay, meanwhile, we can still just like go a little bit, make a wick, and then trade higher. Or we might trade higher from here, break this one upward. In this case, the bulls would take over, and then we'll be expecting a movement higher. This is from a short-term perspective. Okay, for the bulls to take over. From a medium-term one, I would like to see a break just like this, right? A double top here, and then it be broke above it like this in this candle on H4, and then boom, we trade it higher. I would like to see a very similar pattern, and just for example, this one, just like here. Okay, here we go. That's it. I would like to see this break. That's why you see alert here. Okay, so like now I have one here, which you already saw from M30, one here in case we drop lower, one here once we break above, connect this one up there, and I guess yeah, one above the zone right there. So I want to break above this area for the bulls to take over from a medium term, or like from a longer term perspective, for us to be able to test this area. That's it for Bitcoin. A very similar analysis or scenario for Ethereum. Look at how clean this channel is. If you go to daily time frame, I very much like how we broke above multiple resistance zones here, above this trend line, above this previous high, above this support resistance, which is the 100, which is the 1500. So I'm very glad we did this movement. Now let's treat the previous ones, no longer helpful. Okay, support, let's delete it for now. We've got our midway support, so let's keep it, but let's make it cleaner. That's it. Okay, we might have a correction like this because we had our impulse, a correction, even a wick filling the previous low, a high, okay, and then we trade higher from here again. Okay, if you go to H4, we are currently in this correction, just like Bitcoin, the exact same thing. We might also drop a little bit lower. Yeah, I got my alert like just above the 1500, like 1510. around this area, which would be the intersection of the previous low, which is a demand, lower trend line in blue, the 1500 like right here. So this would be expected. And then here, I'll be waiting for a new swing high and then a breakup of it. For now, the current major high is around this area right here, which you can see better also from H1 time frame. That's why you see my alerts just above the zone. Okay, and let's extend this one because we might have like this movement like this as a wick before we trade higher. But for now, this is what I'm looking for: rejection from here or a break above this area. Okay, Cesar Kurd, right? Sorry, what indicator you use? Orange for resistance show up indicator. I mean indicator name. Yeah, you can see it here. So it's a rich boom and like rich TL. You can check it out, htl.com, and this would be it. Okay, let's wait for my connection to get faster. Okay, this is it. Okay, it's like my okay, I'm sorry. Let me take another sip. Okay, let's move forward to NWC. NWC, we are still waiting for the boost to kick in, of course, from a long-term perspective, waiting for a break above the 0.2. But let's take it step by step. For now, if you zoom in a little bit, you can see this demand zone right here and this big impulse movement upward. That's the only consolidation or bearish candle. Price is currently still sitting around it. Also a support and resistance. As you see, broken upward and downward, and now price rejected it once, and we are currently around the zone. You can see multiple alerts, like right now, like this one went off and this one went off, like today and yesterday, as you saw from this wick and as you saw from these wicks. So I'm still waiting for a break above this one, a full candle close above it. In this case, the bulls will take over, and I'll be expecting a bullish movement. Meanwhile, if we dive inside the zone, I want to know because like it would like this demand zone is a very strong one, so it would be like it would get more attractive. For now, I'll be waiting for this break for the bulls to take over short term, and then this break above the 0.115, which you can see here, very clean one, multiple rejections, resistance, support, resistance, and so on. So I'll be adding some here and I'll be adding some more when we have this break above this one. In this case, we'll be expecting a bullish movement to this resistance, and then we want a break above this entire resistance for the bulls to take over from a long-term perspective. For now, we are still inside a range, as you clearly see, and waiting for this major high from H4 to be broken upwards. Okay, okay, like for Joseph, I don't know if Joseph is here. No, he is not here. But anyway, let's do it anyway. He can watch the recording later on. Like he's a big fan of. Let me say it. Yeah, Galatasaray fan token. So like we added to the list, and we are doing every single week. Fantastic, Tipser guy. Hope you're doing good. Happy to see you here. Okay, we're approaching a massive zone, but it's not like support resistance, it's just like around number 1.5 and 2. For the bulls to take over, we need to see a break above this area here, which we highlighted last week on H4. We have a similar one, but like I didn't like to put a zone here because we've got multiple wicks, right? So price can sit trade higher and trade lower again and again and again, just like what's happening lately. So that's why I'll be sticking to this zone for now from the daily time frame for the bulls to take over. Meanwhile, unfortunately, this one can still trade lower and lower inside this the lower bound. Okay, seed for dear boss for Mac. We are still bullish here, trading inside this channel. And for the bulls to take over from a long-term perspective, I need to see a break above the 14.5 or 15 like this of this inverse head and shoulders pattern neckline. If we see this break, we'll be expecting a long-term bullish movement. For now, as mentioned last week, I don't like to see a break below this low. If you break it down, it wouldn't be good. We'll be expecting further bearish movements. But for now, we are still holding around the 10. So let's hope we reject it upward, we break above this, and then we break above this major one. Because like this is an entire zone, but you can go for this one. But to me, like for extra confirmation, I'll be making it a little bit higher to cover these risks, but in fact, it can be this one. So by breaking above these highs here, it would also be breaking above the neckline. But let's be extra conservative and stick to the upper one. If you go to H4, to H1, we had this channel last week, so we are still waiting for the bulls to kick in and break above it for them to take over. Meanwhile, we can still trade a little bit lower to the zone before we trade higher, but if we break it down, it wouldn't be good. Okay, so someone asked me about Aptos APT like last week. That's why I've added it to start with it, because like last week we didn't have enough data. For this week we do have like more data. If you zoom in to H1, sorry. Okay, we can see that we are currently rejecting this previous low here, which is also a demand zone. So we traded lower, we rejected this zone, and like we are currently here anyway. But for the bulls to take over, we need to see a break above these previous highs, lining up with these highs right here. So broken downward, now a resistance and so on. You can see my alert is here around 8.4. I would like to see this break, or for example, this going flat, a new high, and then a break above it. But for now, this is the zone that I'm looking for a break above for the bulls to take over. Because meanwhile, yes, we can still trade lower, and if we break below this zone, it wouldn't be good. We'll be expecting further bearish movement on Aptos or on APT. Okay. So like now, since the World Cup is approaching, and like for those who saw it, I've posted this one here. Okay, so it's related to FIFA World Cup 2022. Which yeah, if you want, like, you can see it as well, but let's do it as a video. So first of all, we've got Chile's CHZ. The token serves as a currency that allows users to purchase NFTs and Chile's socio fan token marketplace. And if you go a little bit lower, you can see the technical analysis of it. Anyway, we'll check it out as a video. On Algo, FIFA has teamed up with blockchain technology company Algorand to agree a sponsorship and technical partnership deal. That's why I'm keeping an eye on Algo as well during the World Cup. And Crypto.com, which for those who already know, it's a popular exchange. And FIFA announced that Crypto.com will be an official sponsor of the FIFA World Cup 2022. Okay, that's why I'm keeping an eye on all these three for now. On Crypto.com, we can see that we are around this lower bound support and resistance. Also, of course, we can draw this one right here. So around 0.06 or 5. Anyway, let's go for 6 to line up with this one. And let's go for green. That's it. Okay, retesting this area, looking for buy setups. Of course, we can dive inside it before we trade higher. On daily time frame, we are forming like an inverse head and shoulders pattern, head, and the right would be like this. So left, head, right, that's the neckline right here. Okay, that's why you see the alert is here. I don't know why it's a little bit higher. Let's make it a little bit lower. That's it. Okay, I'm waiting for this one. This would be, I'll be adding some here, and I'll be adding some more if we break above this zone, which is where you can see my alert also right there. Okay, so this is for Crypto.com. For Crow, on CIZ, the bulls already took over from a short-term perspective. we are trading higher and will be bullish as long as we are trading inside or above this channel. From a longer term perspective, if you check a weekly time frame, I don't want to see this one on weekly, this little line, that's it. So weekly time frame, we are currently inside this inverse head and shoulders pattern as a whole range, and we're waiting for a support and resistance break upward, which would also be a break above the neckline of this inverse head and shoulders. So I would like to see a daily or even a weekly candle close above this zone. In this case, we'll be expecting a bullish movement on CSZ. Meanwhile, if we trade lower and retest this area, that's why you see my alert here. So I got one here and I got one here, right? If we go lower, approach the support again, I'll be looking, of course, for buy setups on lower time frames. On algo, okay, on weekly time frame, we are retesting a strong support and resistance. That's the whole zone. So we're looking for buy setups. If you go to daily time frame, we are currently stuck inside this range. Of course, if you approach the lower band, just like previously multiple times, we'll be looking for buy setups right here. And for the bullish takeover from a long-term perspective, I would like to see a break above the zone, okay, above 0.43. In this case, the bullish will take over, but then we'll be facing this resistance. So for the bullish remaining control, I would like to see a break above this zone right here, as you see. Okay, I would like to see this one. In this case, we'll be expecting a long-term bullish move, but let's take it step by step for now. Let's wait for this. Okay, so for now, if you have any questions, if you want me to go over a specific coin, please let me know. I've got a big list, right? So as you can see, I've got a big watch list. So I'm gonna go over them like by order. But of course, if you will want me to go over a specific one, I'd add it to the front and do it next. Let's take a sip as a break, 2 seconds, and we'll continue. Meanwhile, if you have any questions or requests, please let me know. Okay, let's move forward. We've got KCS. On KCS, we are currently stuck inside a whole range around our round number 10, which is also a strong support and resistance, right? So for the bulls to take over here, we need to see a break above this zone. In this case, we'll be expecting further bullish movement upward, which you can see even better from daily time frame. That's why that's my alert. Okay, that's our last major high. I would like to see a daily close above it. In this case, we'll be expecting this movement. From H4 timeframes, like for those who previously saw it, the bulls broke above this one. We expected a rejection from here, and we expected a rejection from here, and now we are bullish. Okay. Anyway, let's zoom into lower time frames. We are currently bullish. We previously entered a buy here, entered a buy here, and now since we are bullish, trading inside this like rising broadening wedge, yeah, it's looking weird. But the bigger the impulse, the bigger the correction, bigger the impulse, bigger, and so on. So I'm waiting for the bulls to take over, just like here. Broke above this high, traded higher, above this high, traded higher, waiting for a high to form here, and then a break above it for the bulls to take over. In this case, we'll be expecting a movement till the 11, which is the previous major high, and so on. So that's it, and we don't want a break like this, an aggressive one below the zone. In this case, we'll be expecting further bearish movement, and I have my alert where that's it. In case we drop lower, I want to look for bust stops as well around the previous resistance turned support. Next, we've got BNB. On BNB, we can see that, here we go. We broke above this high right here, traded higher, and then we broke above this resistance and we traded higher. Currently, we are retesting this resistance, the upper one, the main one, which you can see from daily time frame. Okay. So for the booster takeover from a long-term perspective, I would like to see this break a daily close above this zone, which if you want, let me get a little bit lower like this. Okay, so around 340. If you break above it, we'll be expecting a bullish movement. Meanwhile, we're expecting a rejection from here. Okay, because it's a resistance zone, but it's the first time where we have a support, because previously we didn't have anything holding it back, so we went lower this much. For now, if we reject it, this would be a support zone that might drag the price upwards. So in fact, a rejection from here would be just a correction. We might even find a rejection and then break above the zone. In this case, the bulls would take over. So that's basically it. I can't really add much except that the bulls took over here. So like for those who entered a buy, well done. And yeah, that's it. Pretty much it. Let me remove this one. Draw a trend line. You can see this trend line all over the place, right? Yeah. Also can draw this channel, but I don't want to be looking for a buy here because I want a break above this entire zone. So I will not buy here if you break it upward. I'll wait for this break and then and then we'll be adding more longs. On XRP, like this one is getting boring, as you see. For a couple of days now, we are stuck here inside this range. So I would like now, especially after this consolidation, I would like to see it going lower, okay? Like to grab more liquidity to be able to push price higher again. We had our impulse breaking above the highs. We're in correction now, but it's getting boring as mentioned. As you see, my alert is here. If we retest this zone, I'll be looking for buy stops, or if you break above this zone here, alert is right there. If you break it higher, we'll be expecting a short-term bullish movement. Short-term because for the bulls to take over from a long-term perspective, I still insist on seeing a break above the 0.6, which where you can see my last alert for XRP up there. So I would like to see a weekly candle close above this to expect a long-term bullish movement here. You can see the 0.6, 0.5 is a massive support and resistance. Resistance previously multiple times, support multiple times, broken downward, and now of course it would be acting as a resistance. So we would like to see a candle breaking above it before we finally say that, yeah, we are bullish on XRP. For now, it's just a correction, just like here, and here we go. We might still trade lower and lower, okay? Okay, on Raven coin, if you have any questions or want to go over a specific altcoin, please let me know in the comment section or in the members talk for those who are on Discord. Okay, so now we'll get a market structure example. Here we go. Structure. Okay. So we can clearly see that we are bearish. This is of course like weekly time frame. For market structure, always stick to the higher time frames, okay? Weekly and daily to know where you are in the market, and then of course you can time and like plan your trades on lower time frames. But it's very important, especially for crypto, to start from weekly and then daily time frame. We can see that on weekly we have been bearish, and you can also like apply it on like any chart, right? So impulse breaking below this low, a correction, another impulse movement lower, and so on. But let's take an example on RVN, on Raven coin. We are currently in this bearish trend, lower lows, lower highs, right? Lower lows and lower highs. And as you can see here, it's the first time where we had this deep correction, because previously only a couple of candles. But look at this, right? An overextended correction, which means that yes, the bears are still in control, we are still going down, but we might not go down further because the bears are exhausted. Of course, we can still trade lower, but it's showing us that the bears are exhausted. They couldn't push lower as they were pushing before. Especially if now we have a reversal from here, it would result in a higher low. If this happens, if we trade higher from here, it would be an early alert that the bulls are finally stepping in. And as a confirmation, we need to see a break above the previous high. So if you delete everything, and I can just stick to market structure, you can clearly see and know that we are waiting for this zone to be broken upward for the bulls to take over from a long-term perspective, because this is weekly time frame, of course. Okay. Meanwhile, we would like to see a higher low and then trade higher and then a break. This would be our confirmation that now we have a shift in momentum from bearish to bullish, and we'll be expecting a bullish trend. We can apply the same logic if you zoom into daily time frame. You can see that here we go. We are currently inside this movement. So inside an impulse on weekly, we might have impulse and correction movements, right? So you can see it here: lower lows, lower highs, broke above the high, trade it higher, then broke below the low, trade it lower, then broke above the high, trade it higher, broke below the low, trade it lower, and so on. So I can apply the same logic now, and like you can see all of these, let me move them here, that's it, right? So you apply the same logic that you applied here as well. So we're waiting for what? Just like previously, lower, 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 and then a break above a high. So for now, we are going lower, 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 waiting for a break above the high. That's why you see my alert right here. Meanwhile, we can trade lower and lower and lower, make a high here. I'll adjust my alert to be here, and then I'll be buying on its break upwards. Meanwhile, we are bearish, and we have a demand zone here because we have an aggressive movement upward from it. This demand zone reminds me very much of a previous demand, which is this one. Okay, an aggressive movement upward, retest it like this, and then fill it, trade it higher. Trade it higher, creating what? A new demand zone. That's it. Now going down to fill it, and we'll be expecting a bullish movement if and only if the bulls take over by breaking above the previous high, which is this one or this one now. Meanwhile, if we trade lower and dive inside the zone, okay, you can see my alert here, but I don't know why it's this low. It should be inside it. Okay, oops, it should be inside it. That's it. Okay, if you drop this low, it would be a good area also to look for buy setups on lower time frames. But for now, we are inside this range here. I'm waiting for this break for the bulls to take over, as I showed you from daily time frame. If you take a look at Doge and Sol, of course, I have them on my list, I guess. Solana, where is, yeah, that's it. That's Solana. And Doge, where is our beloved Doge? I guess it's somewhere here, but I can't really find it, but I'm sure it's here. Okay, I found Elon, but Doge, yeah, that's it. And I found Shiba as well. Okay, and where is our Solana? Yeah, that's it. Okay. Bukarik, massive Doge, and Shiba, yes, indeed. So on Solana, that's it. A very simple chart. Retesting this demand zone, an aggressive movement upward from it. Now we are filling it, and that's obviously our last major high around the 50. So for the bulls to take over, from a long-term perspective, we obviously need to see a break above what? This one, which is the 50. That's why you see my alert here. Next, yeah, this was the drawing from last week. So for the best bulls to take over from a short-term perspective, we need to see a break above this high, which you can see here. So we had the break. We are currently in a retest, so we might trade higher from here. So now we can look for buy setups here to catch this impulse movement. But then from a medium-term perspective, we need to see a break above this high. So you can add some here, and you can add some more here, and finally, like the main bag if you want, if you break above the 50. Okay, so short-term, medium-term, and then long-term. That's basically it. We might be trading lower to form an inverse head and shoulders. Let me check. Oh, no, we don't have it because this low here, and we already made a higher high. So if it was still here, then yeah, we might have an inverse head and shoulders. But for now, it's like not possible. So yeah, that's basically it for Solana. For Doge, we broke above the zone. So if you remember last week, I guess, or the one before it, someone asked about it, that we are around the weekly demand zone, which you see here around 0.05. We are looking for buy setups on a daily time frame for the bulls to take over. From a long-term perspective, we need to see a breakup of the 0.1. So my alert went off, but now I added it again because on the retest of it, I'll be looking also for buy setups from lower time frames. If you remember, we had a zone, that's it, which if you want, you can see even better from daily time frame, and we're waiting for the bulls to break above it, for them to take over. And as you can see, we broke above the zone and we kept on moving higher. So now finally the bulls are kicking in. We had our impulse movements on the correction. Now if we get the correction, I'll be looking for this buy. Okay, okay, give me a second, because like some dogs are. Okay, I'm back. What do you think on the Fed's rate hike? It's going to bring a bump or dip in the crypto space? Yeah, I already shared my opinion at the start. If you saw it, this is basically it. I'm speculating like first a small dump, and then we'll see how it goes from there. If we check like previous analysis here, that we might have a quick movement downward before we trade higher. And on the XY as well, we might have a movement like this before we trade lower. USDT dominance like this, okay? Bitcoin, we might dive a little bit lower before we break it upward. But for now, like no matter what happens during the news, don't panic. Keep following your rules. And for our rules, we know that we would be bullish as long as we are above the 20K, above these lows. Okay, if we can trade lower, make even a wick here before we trade higher again. Okay, but we don't want a break below the 20K like this. Okay, in this case, we'll be expecting further bearish movement. We are currently bearish inside the correction, inside this channel, waiting for the bulls to take over by breaking above this previous high, which you can see here. Okay, meanwhile, we can trade a little bit lower, make a wick, and then trade higher to break it upwards. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know. If you want me to go over a specific one, let me know as well. Okay, on Link, we are also stuck inside this range. For the bulls to take over, we need to see a break above what? The 10. Because it's a round number, an entire range like this, waiting for it to be broken upward for the bulls to take over. Meanwhile, we are stuck here inside the range, and the bulls already took over from a short-term perspective. That's it for Link. We might trade a little bit higher. We have our impulse correction. Impulse, we might have a correction before the next impulse movement start. Okay, hello MC, MC Magnia. Hope you're doing good. Glad to see you here. Danny, we got Danny as well. Hope you're doing good, dear. Okay, on XLM, a very similar scenario, just like Link. We have a double bottom, a whole range, and as you can see, like Algo, Link, and XLM are very similar, as the chart, as price action. We are waiting for the bulls to take over here from a long-term perspective by breaking above the 0.14. We are around a demand zone, which you can see, an aggressive movement upward from here. We might still dive inside it before we trade higher. That's why we are looking or waiting for the bulls to take over first before we jump in. But long-term perspective, I'm waiting for a breakup of the 0.14, and from a short-term perspective, this would be our last major high, and it depends on you on how deep or how low you want to zoom in. For example, on H1 time frame, you can draw this channel right here. So for the bulls to take over from a short-term perspective, I would like to see this and then a break above it. We'll be expecting this short-term bullish movement. But from a medium term, we want to see a break above this and then long-term above the upper one up there. Okay, on STX, can't really add much, no updates yet. Let's just extend our zones and put it right here. Waiting for a break above this upper bound for the bulls to take over, because we are around a demand zone as well, 0.3, and this entire range around the lower bound of it, waiting for the bulls to kick in. This would be from a medium-term perspective, and then this would be from a long-term perspective above 0.5 round number. Okay, Mac. Okay. Okay. Yeah, fantastic. Nice. Okay, that would be it. Let's go for a couple of ones more. If you have any questions or want to go over a specific one, please let me know. Let's pick like one or two more. Yeah, let's go for ATC. On ATC, you can see that we are inside this falling channel, approaching the lower bound. So we'll be looking for buy stops right here, lining up with the support and resistance around 20 to 15. For the bulls to take over from a long-term perspective, of course, we need to see a break above this previous high, major high, also the 50. And if we see this break, we'll be expecting a long-term bullish movement on Ethereum Classic. Meanwhile, we're around this zone 20 and so on. So waiting for the bulls to take over, which haven't taken yet. We are waiting for a break for now from a short-term perspective above the 27 like this. If we see this break, we'll be expecting a bullish move, and then we'll get this one, so this movement like this. Okay, meanwhile, we can set trade a little bit lower before breaking it upward, or even dive even lower and lower before forming a new high and breaking it upwards. Okay. Okay, so that's basically it for for today, because like after 5 minutes we got like Fed interest rates and FOMC. As mentioned, trade safe, be safe, and don't panic. Follow your rules no matter what, and always remember, no trade is also a trade. Okay. I'll keep an eye on the member stock for a minute or two. If you have any questions, let me know. If not, that would be it for tonight. And I'll see you hopefully next week, same day and same time. And of course, like that, don't leave now, because Mac will initiate the robot as usual for you to get like the rewards or like the draw, right? Tarek, I'm happy that you are here every single time, enjoying it. Happy to see you here. Mac, you are amazing too. Thank you for the opportunity. Tipster, Guy, happy to see you here as well. You're more than welcome. And of course, GSAMJ, right? You're more than welcome. Mac, thank you so much for being an amazing host. Before we give away, we need to let you know that we have already created the event for next week. So click on the interested button. That's it. I clicked it. Okay. So that's it for tonight for me. I'll see you hopefully next week, same day, same time. And be safe. Best of luck. And I'll see you hopefully next week. Goodbye, everyone.